Okay, so we're recording. It is Monday, May 15th. We're starting our executive committee meeting at 7:12. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. So we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to start with committee chair updates. Who would like to go first?
I'll
Go
go
ahead,
first.
Alfredo.
All right. Welcome everyone. So we have a public safety meeting coming up. I think. Give me a second because it's been a long day, but it's coming up. I think not this Monday, the following Monday. Urs, correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm sorry, my son was talking to me. Say that again.
No, I said being that I'm driving. I said I know that we have a public safety committee meeting coming up.
I sent it out today. Yes, I sent it out today.
No, I know, but I'm being that I'm driving. I don't want to get it to the phone. Is it the next Monday or the following Monday after that?
It's next Monday because you meet the 4th
All right.
Monday.
Okay, so
You're
yeah,
meeting on the 4th, and nominating committee is that Wednesday, next Wednesday.
all right, cool. So yeah, so this next Monday, and they're gonna. This is the people from the New York Civil Liberties Union. I think they're gonna make a presentation regarding, I think, needing a letter of support for dismantling of the SRG unit. Sounds like a hip hop group, but the SRG unit from the police department. So we're gonna come, let them, present, speak, and then we go from there. That's all the update I have. And also, like I was mentioning, we have a new CO in the 47th precinct, Inspector Carabell. So I spoke to him the other day, and hopefully he'll be available to come to our next board meeting so he can meet everyone instead of coming to my committee meeting. And he's a great guy, a Bronx guy, and I think he's gonna do great stuff in the 4-7. And that's all I have to say. Good night, guys.
Thanks, Alfredo. Who would like to go next?
John. Hi guys. We met on the was it the 8th? Actually, no, we met on the 11th. We had discussions about again the bike lanes.
I'm sorry, John, and just mention the chair, who, which committee you chair, just since
Chair,
we're recording.
John, okay, John is a chair of transportation. We met on Thursday, May 11th at 7 p.m. The agenda were that we were supposed to honor with co-namings 4 pillars of the Community Board 12 or District 12, which we did, and then from there, and we actually made a motion for to accept all those co-namings on the street, which we will need to bring to the full board, so to get a letter. Also, with the free bus, we also Luke, I think Ursula sent it out, but Luke came up with a great idea. Is it bus route 8, Luke? So bus route 8 is was Luke's recommendation for the free bus. So we actually voted to support the that idea, and we're gonna have a letter written, and we're gonna bring that to the full board. From there, the meeting actually took a turn when the bike lanes came up again, and one of the things that I'm gonna instill in our meetings right now, if it's not on the agenda, I'm not gonna have it be part of the discussion. This going back and forth. Ursula is actually working with DOT to not DOT, but trying to get the commissioner of DOT there to discuss. I'm even thinking that we should have like a separate meeting just for that instead of a committee meeting, and then we could take it out of committee, because it should be a discussion between the council with the commissioner and these folks. Because it seems like we're like in the middle of all this nonsense going back and forth, and I'm open for suggestions.
So John, were you suggesting maybe a public hearing just for
Yeah,
that
a
topic?
public hearing separate from our I don't know what you guys think about it, because our transportation meeting is being just consumed by the bike lanes and the aggression of the vendors, and and we need help from our councilman. um I guess Dinowitz is on, but we actually really need help with these bike lanes.
Yes, welcome, Councilmember Dinowitz. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Of course. How's everyone tonight?
Great.
Great. And so John Isaac, he's the chair of our Transportation Committee.
Hey,
And so
John.
he just wanted he has an ask for you.
Sure.
Well, our next transportation meeting, we've been having a lot of folks coming on with objection to the bike lanes
Can you tell me which bike,
and
which?
on White Plains Road. The
Okay.
ones on White Plains Road underneath the L. It's been a big issue, and to the point where the board is actually being accused of installing these bike lanes and all this stuff. And we did approve it, but they're very upset about it. They felt they weren't um given proper notice, so forth. You know, so
Yeah.
every meeting they've been showing up, and they want answers.
And what do you mean I mean, how many people is it? How many complaints is it?
Well,
I mean,
right now it's about I think like 4 or 5 people has been showing up, and they're store owners, and then also a couple of residents. But then they started a petition, which is apparently supposed to be hundreds of people.
from the board, from Community Board 12, or from
On the Community Board
that
12
board?
area.
Okay,
What's
and so
up?
what are you? What is it you're looking for? Are you? I mean, the board approved this. What's the concern now?
Well, they feel that it's there are safety issues, like they're concerned with the bus. There's a bus transportation issues, like the bus can't get around the delivery trucks that are delivering produce out there.
John, we could send him the letter. Councilmember,
Yes.
we sent the letter to Keith Kalb from DOT. And so just delineating what were the concerns that were brought up in one of the committee meetings. And so what John is saying is what we're echoing, that it's just become an issue where it's taking up the majority of time. People are just complaining, and they're just upset. They don't understand we're advisory, that we don't have the power to make that change for them. And so they would like for us to bring the elected officials to our next committee meeting so that they can kind of like share their concerns.
Oh, so I think, as you all know, I'm happy to attend any meeting about, anything, any committee meeting. I think I've attended one of your education meetings before. I think I've been to one of your transportation meetings. So I'm happy if there's a specific issue to come to the meeting. And I'm sure you'll guess I'm not going to tell them much different than you would tell them. My general rule is I like to be supportive of. Typically like to be supportive of what the community boards are supportive of. And if they were supportive of this bike lane to begin with, I'm gonna warn you though that I can almost guess that Keith Calv's response is going to be, that's fine. About the trucks, we can take away parking and make them truck loading and unloading zones, which would be another unpopular solution to a traffic problem.
Right, but I do think that we do need the elected officials to kind of share that we are just advisory, and even if we have voted yes or no, because the commissioner is with bike lanes, it probably would have happened anyway. Because they're under the impression that it happened solely because we said yes. However, we know that even if we would have said no, that we were opposing it, it probably would have still happened. It's happening all over New York City.
I'm happy, like I said, I'm happy to come to any meeting and explain,
The
community
process.
boards and the process. Happy to do any of that, of course. I
Okay.
know Luke has someone to add, I guess.
Hey, look,
Yeah, I was just going to mention that the dialogue at the transportation committee meetings, which it feels like, we're starting to get kind of trolled by people who are opposed to the bike lane. It's starting to get personal. And at the last one, we were accused of being planted, community board members having been planted by the bike lobby, some conspiratorial kind of organization. And some of the language that's being used seems pretty targeted against specific members of the committee, and I think there's a lot of personal animosity that's also there. So kind of being able to explain, the role of the community board, the role of DOT, DOT is operating on different, requirements than our advisory opinion. I think any support in explaining the differences in some of these organizations and where to bring your complaints so that they can be kind of resolved in a productive manner.
Just taking some notes. The bike lobby, the ever so powerful bike lobby. They're tens of dollars. Again, happy to come on, explain how appointments are made. I would say, since this is, a number of the chairs on this call, I would just, remind everyone what we're reminded in the council, that the chair is in charge of keeping what we call decorum. And I haven't been to so many of your individual committees, so I'm saying this as more of a hypothetical and less of a comment on any particular chair, because again, I don't know. But the chairs have, at least in the council, you have the authority to start the meeting out saying people have a certain amount of time to talk on the subject, or you can move on to the next agenda item. And if people are getting inappropriate, I think it's appropriate to mute them and move on to people who are on topic, which is whatever is on the agenda.
Okay. And we'll share that letter that we sent to Keith Cobb with you, just so you
Sure.
have record of what
Please do.
Thank
Did you, and just like taking a step back, the process of you being informed of the bike lanes and then the implementation of the bike lanes, did you find as the board members that process to be, did you get a good briefing and before the meeting, and then did the board, and then did the entire community get a briefing from the DOT and then time to comment on it, and then it was implemented?
Apparently, DOT street team supposedly went around to each one of the vendors on White Plains Road and spoke to them. They also put flyers up on the post outside and about the community board meeting. And both meetings that we had with DOT, no one showed up from the community.
Okay.
It's a problem. Ursula has her hands up too, John. Go ahead, Urs.
No, I was basically going to say the same thing John said. And also, when I sent out the agenda, I have close to 500 or more than 500 now people on my agenda. So it was definitely on the agenda if you're on our mailing list.
Okay.
One thing I was going to say is that, from the time that DOT presented it to us and we voted to approve it, a couple weeks after that, FDNY looked at it, and the FDNY took away an additional like 80 parking spaces. So it was going to have more parking, which we had approved, but by the time FDNY looked at it, they had reduced a lot of the other parking spaces. So that might be something that we can explain to people, to say, hey, this is, as not as bad as we had, or it's worse than what we approved in terms of parking. But I mean, there's also other issues like this. NYPD isn't doing a really good job of enforcing it. There's a fruit vendor that spends all day long selling fruit out of it, so it's not really being used as a bike lane. It's kind of being used as this like other space.
So the bike lane's being blocked by a fruit vendor?
Yeah, every day, every day. He parks his truck there and he sells fruit out of the bike lane. It's
I
also
mean, that's certainly an enforcement issue. That's, that sounds like an issue of implementation, not an issue of the existence of the bike lane.
Yeah, and I've filed a lot of 3-1 complaints about this, but they always get closed and they say, oh, the issue didn't exist or, it's not our jurisdiction. So it's partly, personally, I think we need collaboration from the NYPD and DOT so that everybody's on the same page. So that's in addition to all these other issues.
Right. And I just want to move ahead because we've been spending a lot of time on this and I do want to use time with you wisely, council members. So we're going to move on to the topic of why we invited you. Oh, Ursula, did you have your hands up before we move on? Ursula?
Sorry, no, I'm gonna put it down now.
Okay. So council member, we invited you, as you know, George and I had a conversation with you regarding the newly sanctuary homes that have been placed within our district, particularly your area. So I wanted a moment, for us to have a conversation with the chairs of our committees here and with you. Any information would be helpful. As George and I mentioned, it is a lot for this district. We know it's happening everywhere. And I know some of our chairs do have some questions. So I don't know if you want to start with an introduction of that, of what you may know.
Of what I may know.
Yes.
Nothing more than we discussed. You're having a handful of additional family shelters open up in your district for asylum seekers, and there is one permanent shelter opening up in the district. So to let you know, Beatrice, George, and I, and my chief of staff last week had a conversation about what's going on with all the shelters. So we get the data every day about asylum seekers. There have been over 60,000 come through New York City, and there are currently 37,000 asylum seekers here in New York City. That's of course in addition to the the other homeless population. Obviously, I think you all know that Wakefield's been inundated with shelters, and this is before the asylum seeker crisis. I think you recall we sent letters and did outreach to DOH, DSS. When I was elected, it's one of those things where I said, no, this new 6th shelter that opened up is just an emergency shelter. It's going to be closed soon. And of course, it wasn't closed soon. You got the shelter on 4747 Bronx Boulevard. And unsurprisingly, the DHS did not communicate with DOE, and I think probably not even the community board. The reason that's important is because the schools should know that they might be getting an influx of kids, which they did. And so, to me, the problem isn't just the number of shelters, it's that our city agencies aren't working together to meet the needs of you and to meet the needs of the asylum seekers. So it falls on you and it falls on me to bring these agencies together. Beyond the information that you have, I don't currently have any additional information except shelters are opening up in the district. We had discussed getting the data. I know George sent over sort of the number. I just had it up, but like the number of shelters and the number of people from each community district. That was data from 2019. DHS is like very opaque about the data. That information was gotten from a FOIL request, a Freedom of Information Law request. When we asked regarding another shelter in 2022, they referred us to a newspaper article which had data from 2019. They didn't give us new data. I talked with a colleague of mine who apparently does have the data, and he said it was really, really, really hard to get the data. And he has it from, I guess, a little while ago, and that was only because he knew a person who worked there. That was the only reason he got it, which is very obviously not how our city agencies should be run. That was the council member that we spoke about on the phone call. I asked him about it. And so DHS is notoriously opaque. I'm still waiting for data. We've asked for a long time. I'm certainly here to hear concerns you have, any concerns that have been brought up, anything we can work on together to make sure that we're both supportive of asylum seekers, but also making sure we're supportive of our neighbors who currently live in Wakefield.
Ursula, you have a question? Your hand's up, and then John.
No, I just wanted to let the council member know that the same information I sent to him, I sent another request to Homeless Services asking for it, but they haven't responded back yet.
Can you copy me on the next email you send, please?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. My email, not the general inbox, my email.
Okay.
All right,
First,
thank
maybe
you.
you can do that tomorrow or when you're, the following day, and then CC him.
It'll be Wednesday. I'm
yeah,
off
that-
tomorrow. I got
that would
doctor's
work.
appointments.
Okay, cool. John, and then Talene.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I know the shelters are coming. We can't stop them, but we need to get more resources for our area. If we're gonna get more shelters, we need more police. We need more school classes. We need more transportation. The trains are ridiculous. I mean, this said the ridership is low, but I take the train every day. It's like swamp with people. We really need help. They have to do something. They can't give us more people with the same resources we have now. If we get more people, we need more resources. That's all I'm saying.
Thanks, John. Talene.
Yes. Good evening, Councilmember Dinowitz. My question,
Hi.
my question and my concern is with, of course, being education chair and youth services is the schools. So I just want to go back to you're saying that there's a handful of migrant families coming in this area.
So let me just rewind a second.
Okay.
The first time migrant families came in, I think it was August. I don't remember the month, but I remember that I called the principal. I called Principal Gray from PS16. I called the principal of the Matilda School, and we got them all in a Zoom room together with DHS, DOE. That was something that they did not do. That is something that I did. And again, for like especially given like my family background and my history, like probably so many of you, like I am deeply concerned that we are making sure we're supporting asylum seekers. Like that's very important. And as a community guy, like I want to make sure that exactly as John said, that fine, like if more people are coming in, we're here to support them, but the city needs to support us. So what we were able to do in that case was we were able to get PS16 an extra teacher. We were able to actually redo the way that they did food distribution in the schools to allow families to take home food, which I'm sure benefits a lot of the other kids in Wakefield, not just the asylum seekers. And we added a bus stop for at the shelter. I think that's something we can do again. So I just emailed my staff, and we can set up another meeting with DOE, DHS, principals of local schools, and of course some Beatrice and Ursula or George, whoever, to make sure our local schools are getting the resources. So that's the school piece. I'm pretty confident we can push something there. The police, that I'm a little less sure about. The answer we always get is that the police are stretched thin. And the transportation for the school buses, if we did it with 4747, we could probably do at least the school buses with the kids. Again, we can inquire with the MTA, but I'm not sure that they're gonna add more trains for a couple. And I'm not trying to poo-poo any ideas. I'm just trying to be like very upfront, and honest and give you my like unfiltered opinion, so that you have all the information possible. I'm not sure the MTA is going to give, going to say let's increase service so that another for what amounts to a few extra riders essentially, because if it's a couple hundred people and they're not all taking the train, I'm not sure MTA is going to be responsive. We'll ask about more police, although the only thing I would push back on is saying these are families for family shelters. And I would say the answer in this case is I have not seen any evidence of families being any sort of threat. What they really need are things like social workers and housing experts and immigration attorneys and things like that. So that's what I think would be more effective in providing more resources to the community and getting people to a place they need to be.
And council member, what is like the process, right? These hotels they're placed in these hotels, and then is there like a process for them where they get screened and then they get these services that you were talking about, whether it's social work, housing? Do you know there
So,
is a process in place?
so the screening in terms of immigration is supposed to happen at the border. That's one issue. The issue that they've shared with me in terms of immigration is that it's the federal system is pretty inundated, but it's the sort of the local, I guess, attorneys and social workers who have to communicate with the federal government. I think they're short-staffed when it comes to social workers. We visited Kevin Riley and I, we both represent Wakefield. He and I both visited 4747 Bronx Boulevard a few months back. They're obviously supporting the families how they can, but they say they don't even have enough socks for people and toiletries and just the basics. So what we'll do is I'll get an update as to what they need. The last what I was told most recently, and you may have more updated information, was I think what happens is these shelters open and they're run by the city agency DHS, and then it eventually goes over to a nonprofit. I forget the name of some of the nonprofits that are doing the work, but that's another piece of the process that happens.
Okay, thank you. Talene, you had your hands up?
Yes, I just wanted to go back. Councilman Denowitz, you were saying that there is a Zoom meeting where where you're talking about things that are going on in the schools. Is it possible that I could be included as well? I'm not sure,
What I'll do, so there isn't a Zoom meeting. I just emailed my staff about setting one up, so I don't want to, say that something exists. And yes, if you chair the education committee,
correct.
and so I think it's appropriate for you to be there. I think the best thing is a few board members, obviously the chair, the manager, and then maybe one or two other chairs whose jurisdiction. I think schools is one of them. Education's one of them. So we could have a meeting that's well represented by you, who represent the broader community.
And the other part that I want to add to this, I don't know what everybody else is seeing, but Councilman, you know where I live, right on Matilda. And what we found in the past couple of nights, we've had a few families coming through the neighborhood. A couple of the people have had children in strollers late at night, and they don't speak English. Fortunately, I speak Spanish. So, I mean, they are knocking on doors or calling people from their windows. If you're sitting in your window or your lights are on, and being that they don't speak the language, they start out that way with the language. And then when they realize that, the person that they're speaking to does not speak the language, a couple of incidents, the person had on their phone a recorded translation. And in that translation, it's saying, I'm here from another country. I need food. I need money. I need clothing, or however it is that you can help us. So, some of the people, some of my neighbors are older and they're a little nervous about it. I have not encountered that at all. but this is the situation that's going on. I have, as you have, spoken with the principals and some of the parent coordinators and set up a few of the little boutiques at 16 places where people can go to get things that have been donated from my church as well, with Grace Baptist Church and a few other churches in the neighborhood. So I'm just wondering what is going on in the interim. For, I understand people walking around trying to get help, but I'm just trying to figure out, you know, what can we do, or is there
Like
Yeah, so
initiatives? Are you asking if there's any initiatives being put in place?
right, so
right?
what we've done in the past is we have what we typically do is support other initiatives in a few different ways. It's not so common that like my office sets things up. I mean, we've had back to school days at PS16 that my office has set up and very successful. But typically, what we try to do is support other groups, and there's a few ways we do that. If it's a food pantry, sometimes my office is able to allocate discretionary funding. If it's like a community event, we'll advertise. Our email list has, I think, thousands of people. And two friends of mine in Riverdale actually like did a clothing drive. And I know this is, again, months ago for the residents of 4747, they collected a number of things for the asylum seekers there. Is the Deliverance Ministries church, I'm not sure they still are, but they were doing every Sunday hot meals for those living in the shelter. And so I'm happy to support things. I'm happy to also, one of the things we've done is connect different nonprofits to, sometimes private organizations will donate things if the goal is to donate things, but it sort of involves all of us working together to, people to set it up, people to advertise, and then people to get the goods.
Thank you. We're going to go on to Denise.
Yes, I just want to, good evening, everyone. I just want to make sure, Councilman, that I understand the process.
Mhm.
So once a migrant comes in and then they are placed in one of the shelters, then there's no social worker guiding them through the process of like how to enroll your child in school, or this is how you're able to get food on a daily basis. I'm just a little bit confused. So they are then put in a shelter and left to their own devices?
I don't think that. Well, let me just rewind a little bit. What happens is, someone's seeking asylum legally comes over the border, often to Texas, and a lot of these people are coming from Texas, where Texas is given resources to work with asylum seekers, but they're then placed on a bus, sent over to New York City with no notice to us, hop off the bus, and we have a legal mandate to house everyone. Which, by the way, is the right thing to do. Then the city figures out putting them in the shelters. The situation of 4747, I haven't gotten, and I keep talking about 4747 because I was getting updates about those. I haven't gotten recent updates about I think the new shelters, but I'm going to call DSS tomorrow and find out. They didn't even have a printer. And so it was the principal of PS16 who was printing out their legal documents for them, helping them, do for the families what they needed to do. It was the principal of PS16, Principal Gray, who was like giving kids leftover food at risk to her because it's kind of illegal to give out food to not kids. It's like federal law. I helped her and the DOE figured a way around it, and now they have a new program called Share Table. It's great. But like you are right, there are gaps in the system. I'm not sure if they've improved the systems because I haven't been in the new shelters and I haven't gotten updates. And so, as I said, I can call DSS tomorrow. I can get updates from the nonprofits who run the shelters and see what they need and see where the gaps are. And then I can come back and update you, and just both so you have the information, know what's going on, and to figure out how we can all help.
That would be great
Right.
if we can be part of like a walkthrough. Maybe we can't. I'm sorry, Ms. Bond. But just even
Right.
understanding that process, right? Because they are within our board, we do need to understand if the mayor's administration does have any processes. Those are things that we would like to be informed so that then as we're seeking resources, we can have ideas of how we can support their needs.
Yeah.
Ms. Bond, you were going to say something?
Yes, I was just going to add because as an educator, I see that there are many of my students who are coming from the homeless, system, but there are structures put in place with that. So what I'm wondering is why aren't, taking those type of structures that they have in place, the homeless people, and then apply it to this situation, because technically these are homeless people, so that they have those wraparound services. It's already built into what you're doing. It's not just, it seems just very piecemeal. And with
Mhm.
that, it's when you have that type of, when there's no structure, it's ripe with opportunities that are going to impact, unfortunately, not only those people that are seeking asylum care, but also the community at large.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. And the shelters are supposed to have all the supports you're talking about. And I again, I'm only speaking about what happened a few months ago at the first family shelter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find out what's going on in these shelters, because I've also taught unhoused students. They're supposed to have those supports. I will share one little detail. For example, even shelters who have full-time on-staff people. I had one in I have a family shelter in Riverdale where there's a person on site from the DOE who's supposed to help families register for pre-K and 3K, the free early childhood education. And she's not provided with a list of vacant seats. So she has to call each school individually and find out where the vacancies are in the neighborhood, which is mind blowing that who works for the DOE is not providing the information to actually meaningfully and effectively provide the supports to very vulnerable children and very vulnerable families.
Yeah, it's already leaving many of the already existing residents here at a disadvantage. Is going to be a lot of people competing for the limited amount of resources that we have. So that's definitely a concern for us. And then I'm gonna move on. Luke, then Talene. No, actually, Anthony, I think you had your hand up. So Luke, Anthony, then Talene.
Thanks. So in addition, one of the, I think, major resources that we should be advocating for here is affordable housing. In addition to transportation and a lot of these other issues that when we see more people living in a district, it's going to impact. Housing is the number one because, as you said, we have a mandate to house people. But the way I see this is that our kind of broken immigration system is coming up against a housing shortage. This newspaper, City Limits, did this great piece about the differences in where affordable housing is being constructed. From a period of 2014 to 2021, I'll share this in the chat. District 12, Council District 12 created 357 units of housing. By comparison, Council District 11, which is Mr. Dinowitz's district, created 1,525 units. So when we create fewer number of affordable housing, we have to compete with newcomers to the neighborhood.
Well, did Council District 12 only produce 300 somewhat units?
Yeah, it's the second lowest of all of the Bronx. Council
Is the
District
lowest
second
Marjorie?
lowest.
Is the lowest Marjorie's?
Marjorie's only produced 58 units
Yeah.
of housing.
So
From
we do in District 11. One of the things you did on the board is you approved an upzoning on White Plains Road that was for an area to make more housing, and and one of the buildings came before the board for 100% affordable housing. I think the only thing you asked for was more parking. I think because you recognize in CB12 how important affordable housing is, and I think you've met with the folks from Wakefield Village a handful of times, and that's one where I think we can work together to make sure that we're building a number of apartments that can really meet the needs of our local community. But Luke, I think you're absolutely right about building units and affordable units. I think that's very important.
Right, because if we're not building affordable units, families that are growing up here are going to move out. And so, and then they're going to have to compete with units that get put online for asylum seekers. So it's kind of a really challenging situation that
Yeah.
has been growing for at least a decade or more.
I'll let me put in my notes. One of the things that I did at the last hearing, I brought up the issue that developers and HPD incentivize the construction of units and not the construction of bedrooms. And Luke, when you said families moving out, if a term sheet essentially says a developer can make 70% single bedroom and studio apartments and only 30% two bedrooms, you're not going to have many families with many units to find. And so that was a big issue for me, that their term sheets disincentivize family units, which means in a place like Wakefield, even if we build a lot of units, the vast majority are going to be for one person or a married couple, and that's not, and I think most people, when they say family, they typically mean like an intergenerational family, like a parents and kids, or things like that.
I think what I was trying to say was, by family, I mean, like, let's say somebody's son or daughter grows up and is 18, and they need a place to live, and they're getting too old to stay in the small apartment. I think there's a lot of data that shows that families are growing, and single adults from those families need places to live, and if they don't have any affordable places to live in the neighborhood, you're going to see an expat uh, from people aren't staying in the neighborhood, and so that's why we need affordable housing, not only to address our national housing crisis and immigration crisis.
Agreed.
Thanks. We're going to Anthony now.
Hello, Councilman. How are you?
Hey, Anthony.
Hey, Councilman, my concern is, the asylum seekers, yes, they are going to be placed, and it's the law to place them and all of that, but they're coming in our community and they're making us uncomfortable. As far as, do you guys set boundaries for them? Do they tell them what not to do when they go into these shelters? Because they don't need to be coming to nobody's house and making them uncomfortable like that, because everybody acts different. We don't want to have a big uproar. I just think that it needs to be some boundaries set, like if you come into the community, that they don't need to be doing, like, as Tolene was mentioning, that the neighbors are uncomfortable. You have a lot of seniors, you have a lot of retired people in this district, and I think that they need to set some boundaries when they get to the shelter, to tell them what not to do and what to do, because it's really uncomfortable.
When I meet with DSS, I'll ask if there are any sort of community guidelines. It's a very hard thing. The story that Miss Bond, was it Miss Bond? Who told me this? Who just told the story about people? Oh,
Tolene.
That was telling Dickerson.
Colleen. Okay. I'm saying, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but like, they're not asking to, like, I don't know, they're not asking to, like, come in and use your shower and, like, your toilet. They're asking for clothing.
You don't know what they asking for, Councilman. All I'm asking is that they have some boundaries. I
No,
think that's out of order
Anthony,
to
that's
even
not
ask for anything.
that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I understand there need to be boundaries, and as I just said, are they given guidelines about what a community looks like? But I think it's also important to recognize that, like, they're asking for basic needs that they are not being provided, and that's a failure of New York City. And you shouldn't be put in a situation where they're, like, going outside asking for things, and they shouldn't be put in that situation either. So again, just to reiterate, say it third time, like, we're gonna ask, what kind of I don't know, community guidelines are there, if any? I think that's a reasonable question. But that's done alongside, some of the other things we spoke about, which is how can we support making sure they have clothing. What are the nonprofits doing for them, or what are the nonprofits who run these shelters need to provide for the clients there?
Okay.
Anyone else have any other questions or comments or statements? Mr. Hall, I see you just joined us.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. Council member, just, so as you see, everyone is really concerned.
Yeah.
The resource competitiveness is really, at stake here. And so we're really concerned as to what's going to happen in this district. The more information we get, processes, what's going to happen next, what's going to be placed back. If it's, I think we spoke about this the other day, are they going to provide more capital for these schools? That kind of information would be helpful for us to receive from you.
Okay. Well, when I have the information, I'll certainly share it with you. When we have a meeting on the books, I'll share that with you as well.
Okay. Thank you.
And I know you, and I also want to take a moment to thank you. I served on a community board. Maybe one of you works for a community board and you're on your own community board. But I know it's a lot of work, and I know it's all volunteer, and I know you do this because you care about the community, you care about the future of the community, and you want to make sure that the place you live, or in some cases work, that there's a good quality of life, and you get you're treated fairly by New York City, and that you're working to build a better neighborhood. And I just want to tell you how much I value that, and thank you for that. And I'm going to work on these items that we spoke about.
Thank you. Yeah, just to remind you too of the Transportation Committee, we're hoping to get all the elected officials here, including Commissioner Idani's, just so that, people
Yeah.
can vent really
Just
to him.
you guys send me the date and the link, send it over, and we'll put it on my calendar. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night, everyone.
Thank
too.
you for the information. Thank you.
Of course. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining. Okay, so now we're gonna continue with our updates. John, thank you.
No problem.
Who wants to go next?
I guess
Yeah.
we could probably have a conversation after the meeting is over, but everybody could stay on the meeting and we
Yes.
just talk amongst ourselves without any recordings.
I'll go next. I don't have anything to report this month.
Thank you, Judith.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hall?
Well, yeah, I guess you already mentioned that we're going downtown tomorrow morning, all right, with regards to some housing issues. But I would like to say that I have a building in Gun Hill Houses that has no gas, all right? And I need to get the Department of Buildings and Con Ed together, all right? NYCHA's come up with the money to pay for this, but that's what I need as far as getting the gas on, okay? That's where I'm at. So I just want to make it known to everyone that that's the situation in Gun Hill, all right? I've never had a building out. This is a 14-story building with about 130 families. And they've had no gas since March the 20th.
What?
Yes.
And so you have the city agencies already involved, Ursula?
Well, I spoke to Ursula. She was gonna get to DOB and Con Ed. All right, it's gonna cost about 700,000 from what I'm hearing. But NYCHA came up with the money. So I thought they were gonna be the problem. However, they showed up first. So now it's just a matter of the two agencies getting together, to terminate the situation. That's where we're at.
Mr. Hall, Ursula has her hands up.
When I
Yes.
spoke to Mr. Hall, Con Edison is absolutely horrible with responding. I reached out to DOB also, so I'm trying. It's just taking longer than I would hope, wished, or prayed it would.
Nothing's easy. I get it.
Okay, Urs, thanks. Um, Mr. Hall, just keep us updated and in the loop, and if there's any way we can support.
Absolutely, I will.
Thank you. Alfredo?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Rob. So what was there was a gas leak?
Yeah, it's a gas leak, and the gentleman said just shut it down.
Yeah. So
That's
so
it.
so who shut it down? Con Ed? Con Edison themselves shut it down?
Yes, Con Ed did it.
All right. So that's there's a couple of things. So one you got to. I mean, DOB and Con Edison, they are the agencies in charge of this, but eventually a licensed plumber has to be brought in. So I don't know if NYCHA has an in-house licensed plumber,
They
but
do. They
okay.
do.
I mean, did they file anything with buildings yet? Do you know if they filed their documentations with buildings?
I believe they did. I'll check to be sure.
Send me the job number from their filing, and I'll look into it for you. So I could tell you how the procedures work. So
Okay.
a licensed plumber comes in, he identifies the issue, which I'm going to assume there's going to be a lot of issues. So, these people could be without gas for a minute. Now, the procedures is a licensed plumber comes in, he files an application to get the gas reauthorized by Con Edison, right? So, you know, the first thing they got to, again, identify where the gas leak is at. Hopefully it's something simple, and they don't got to start breaking walls to find out where the leak is at. Remember, NYCHA projects were built in the 60s, 70s, and they use what is called black piping. Black piping always tends to leak. Unfortunately, it always tends to leak, and it does not hold pressure the way, piping of nowadays does. But if you give me the job number, I could tell you exactly where they at, and only the licensed plumber and DOB can process this. Then the licensed plumber has to open up a case with Con Edison so they could come out after the inspections were done by DOB and passed and get the gas authorized, and then Con Edison will turn the gas meter on. Um, it's a process. I mean, the good thing that it's not winter, but even that being said, I mean, people still need to take a hot bath. So this is a emergency condition, and again, once you send me the job number, I know where it's at. If it hasn't been filed or approved, then that's that's HPD for you. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
DOB should be able to expedite this on the spot, or the plumber has the authorization if he's licensed to do what is called EWN, emergency work notice, which means that he can notify DOB that he's going to do work without no permits because of the emergency condition. DOB will give him 24 to 48 hours to file the proper documentation, but he could start the process now because it's an emergency condition. So again, text me the address and anything that you may have, and I'll check it for you to see if they've been doing their thing. And like you guys know, unfortunately, housing doesn't really care about their tenants. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yes.
mean, that's just unfortunate. I guarantee you, if it was Parkside Towers or one of these towers in Riverdale, that gas would have been turned on the next day. Just saying.
Okay. I'll get that for you. Ursula will have it tomorrow. I'll make sure. You got it.
Great, Mr. Hall. You have some questions in the chat too, when you get a chance, if you can
Okay.
check them out from Luke. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Carla, any updates?
And nothing really new. I reached out to our contact at Department of City Planning today, Nathan Heffron, but he was out. So I got an out of office message, but so I'll keep you posted this week. I invited him to the June 1st Environmental Concerns Committee meeting with that presentation about zero carbon New York City. But so I didn't hear back today. So I'll keep you posted.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Talene, you're next. Talene, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm sorry. You called me?
Yes, any updates?
Any updates as far as education goes?
Your committee, yes.
Yes, okay, so, all right, so I have been on the phone endlessly, morning to evening, speaking with the same people that Council Member Dinowitz has been speaking with as well. The principals of the schools, the DHS people who have been at the intake at a couple of the buildings. I am definitely planning a meeting for the 23rd. Just trying to get some committed answers on people being there. But it's it's endless. I mean, it's a hard place to be as an educator. Aside from being a mom or a grandmother and all of that, but as an educator, this is very, very confusing and very difficult because the schools that are in the area that have been housing and taking care of our asylum seekers, they're also complaining about their kids that they have had that are unhoused, that they're trying to deal with as well. But this is why I asked to be able to be included, because I mean, I know how everybody knows about the chain when you get information, when it goes from one person to the next, to the next, to the next, till it finally gets back to me. Everybody's giving me the messages. They're doing the best that they can. This is why I need to be involved. If at all possible, I would like to be there to ask the questions, or at least listen with the ear of an educator or someone who worked as an administrator in a school, as knowing that they do not have the teachers, they do not have the people there that are speaking the languages of the asylum seekers that are coming in. And like council member said, they're trying to get teachers to come in. Granted, we've only got about 40 days or so left of school, so that what's going to happen about the summer programs? It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot, and a lot of people don't realize it. I mean, I don't know. I felt really bad for the gentleman that was walking with his babies in the stroller, asking for help. I mean, he wasn't being disrespectful or whatever, but with everything else that's going on in the community, I mean, you can't park your car. You might not have a catalytic converter. Who knows about what else could happen to you? You might get your phone snatched. You might get hit. There's so many things that are going on that we are all dealing with. And so they also spoke about transporting the students to another area. So, I mean, compassionately, I'm like, okay, so you have a family that comes in on a bus, they get situated, and then their children are being sent on a bus somewhere else where their family is not even there, where it's a possibility that the language is not even spoken. So there are a lot of questions that would be on my mind, and that I would be able to deal with if I was included in these meetings or emails or whatever possible. Not to overstep anyone else, but just to have that ear coming from from that standpoint.
Talene, that would be great. And if at your committee meeting coming up, if you can just I know that I asked you to put together some data for us. If you can kind of go over it at your committee meeting of how many schools are within this district. We already know they're oversaturated, but maybe some stats would be super helpful for us to have.
Okay, you're asking how many schools are in this district?
Within the district of the sanctuary homes.
Oh,
for the entire, right? So that immediate neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah, because the schools that would normally take the students are full. So
Right.
they had to go to two other schools in the neighborhood that are going to try to figure out how to open up, but right now currently they don't have the teachers,
Right. They're
or
understaffed.
they don't or the staff to
Support or sustain.
to support.
Thank you, Talene.
Welcome.
We're gonna move on next. And Ms. Gina Williams, were you with the Public Advocate's Office?
Yes, I am. Yes, I
I can't
am.
hear you. If,
I'm
do you
sorry.
have
Can
any
you hear me
information?
now?
Barely. You sound
Well,
like you're far.
yeah, I am a little bit. We're in the middle of a crisis in Harlem right now. Some youth are missing. They've been missing since Friday. Yeah. So, if you get those schools, I would like to know those schools because they are all kind of some are being housed in the gymnasium. However, the ones that are not, and they have already been enrolled into school, the social workers are to be working with those families as well, so that children and parents are not separated from each other. There is all this week for the rest of the month. There's a State of the People address, and if you go on the Public Advocate, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay.
Barely. Barely. You
Okay.
sound
I
far.
hear you, but you're kind of
No, breaking up.
a little bit.
Wait, hold on.
If you notice, Miss Williams, I asked you in the chat if you could call
Can
me.
you
I
hear
gave
me
you my
now?
information, or if we could speak some kind of way that I could, because you're kind of jumbled.
Okay, so I just came outside. So I took the headsets out. So I can't control the noise.
Gotcha.
But this week, this month, there's a State of the People address all month for different areas, for different things. I know the Public Advocate will be speaking tomorrow. There's a youth. You have to go on the website, and then you can look at all of the State of the People, and you can register and attend all the events. I would highly recommend them to you. Oh shoot, my phone is on the red. I'm sorry. That's probably why I'm muzzled as well, because it's about to die out. But I will email tomorrow morning to you.
Okay, but you did see in the chat. Did you get a chance to take my information so that you have it?
Wait a minute, hold on, Miss
This is
Tony.
This is Talene. Yeah, this is Talene speaking.
Yep, I got it. I'm gonna take
sent you a
I'm
private
I'm
message.
snapping it. Yep, right now.
Awesome, awesome.
All right, thank you. And I'm gonna send that out to you tonight when I get in.
I appreciate you so much. Be safe.
Yes, yes. All right, thank you. I'm gonna hop off. Oh no. Wait a minute. No. Hold on. I'm listening. You steady talking.
Sorry, I muted her. That sounded serious. Okay. All right, we're gonna move on. I think we have Denise. Denise, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Any updates?
The only update I have is that the person replacing Matt Duron is Felix Rodriguez, and he attended the main meeting and introduced himself and heard some concerns from the constituents in reference to Seton Falls Park. And Michael Ortiz is on bereavement leave at the moment. I think he should be back shortly. And he is still working to organize the community walk in reference to the Van Cortlandt pedestrian bridge. And those are the only updates I have.
Thank you, Ms. Bond. So we're not sure if it'll happen before we go into recess.
Not sure.
Okay, keep us posted. I think I had anyone else with updates?
Do we hear from do we hear from the nominating committee?
Ursula, we're allowed to talk about that?
Depends on what you're gonna talk about. They will be meeting next Wednesday. Yeah, you know, the usual. I'll send out the notice tonight before I go to the laundry. To send in your bios and whatever else.
Can you walk us through the process?
No, so you just, they're gonna meet to vote on their slate. So they're gonna ask everybody if you plan on running to get back to them. If you plan on running, you submit a bio. And then they'll have a meeting next month where sometimes we've done in the past where they've had a meeting and they gave the candidates a chance to discuss themselves. And then at the June meeting, we'll do nominations from the floor. And if there are no nominations, we'll just go with the slate they presented. And we have Luke, I think it's Luke, he has to set up the Google form so everybody can vote.
Okay, so they're meeting on the 24th.
Yes, you
And
have to
then-
get, they want the bios by the 24th, 5 o'clock. Maybe, no, is it the 24th?
Yes.
Help me out, Luke, you there? Nope, Luke is gone. It may be 23rd or 24th. I'll send it out in a few minutes.
It's an email that I think I saw. It said the 24th.
Okay,
And then
yeah,
I thought my understanding is that then they bring the nominations on the very next day, which is our full board meeting.
right. When they give their report, they offer their slate. So if you said you were gonna run, more than likely you will be on their slate. Or say there's a position open and nobody wants to run, then that'll remain open until the June board meeting.
Okay. Any questions? All right, so then that'll conclude Clinton, first vice chair, second vice chair, anything
Nope, I'm good.
before we close out?
Good.
Okay. Thank you all. We'll stay connected. Talene, were you saying something? You were muted.
I'm sorry. Are we still staying on as Fredo suggested?
So I've been told we can't, right? Once we stop recording.
I'm minding my business. Y'all have a good night. I'm out of here.
No, I mean, you can stay recording. I mean, that's fine. So, I mean, just piggyback, everything that was said. You know, Brother Anthony, he brought up a good point. You know what I mean? In regards to boundaries. Listen, I mean, we all here trying to do God's work, right? I mean, we taking in people from other countries. Nobody else is doing that. Nobody else is taking them. Unfortunately, we've gotten to a point that is gotten so overwhelming that there's nowhere to house these individuals. They're being put in hotels. Some of these hotels don't have the manpower or the capacity or the knowledge to deal with out of towners. Anthony made a good point, and somebody said a particular comment which was kind of awkward. Oh, at least they're not asking you to use their bathroom or take a shower. That's not the point. The point is that no one should be going into your house or knocking on your door asking for anything. I mean, I don't let Jehovah Witness to my house. All right. So again, certain things you just, everything that was asked, it was like rerouted. You know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate. Um, what can we do? There's nothing we can do. And I think I mentioned this earlier. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
It's said and done. It's done, and we got to handle it. Basically, you know what I'm saying? I'll be damned if anybody tries. And I've been burglarized in my house, so I have an extra eye open. And I'll be damned if anyone tries to come to my house, man, woman, child. I'll be damned. All right. So again, if we're gonna house anyone, there has to be resources to maintain them in a particular area. You know what I'm saying? You cannot just stick people from Honduras or whatever country into a motel in the Northeast Bronx. You cannot do that. I mean, the people don't know where they're going. This morning, I was washing my car on Bronx Park, the hotel next door. They were just roaming the streets there, and I was like, "Whoa! Hopefully, they don't get hit by a car." They don't know the area. They don't know where to cross, where not to cross, because, like certain people said,
they just being stuck in these places and leaving them there until something else comes up.
Right. I mean, and
You
it's
know,
concerning because aside from the asylum seekers within our neighborhood, I'm just seeing homeless people that were already existing in our
but you
community.
know what? We don't us the we don't take care of our own. All right, I'm gonna keep it 100. We don't take care of our own. You know, whoever likes it, likes. Whoever don't like it, we don't like it. We don't take care of our own, but we quick to
That's the
help other
problem.
people. You know, we quick to help other people. All
No,
right,
that's the problem. And
and it's sad. It's really sad because we need help for our peoples. Our peoples from here need help, and we don't help them. So we're bypassing them to help others when we don't help our peoples first. And I just hope it don't become a problem that somebody is, being put in one of these, places and something happens. If I think about, safety, I'm a safety guy, right? I think about safety. Do they know what an exit is? Do they know where to go to? Do they know the difference between a smoke alarm, a carbon monoxide alarm? Do they know where to go to? Do they know where to run to? Do they know how to get out of a place that they've never been in? And these are things that I don't think nobody's thought about. They just say, you know what, we're going to stick them in the Northeast Bronx in that new hotel they opened up. And, the guy, instead of making $100 a night, we're going to give him $300 per person. And he's going to say yes. And that's not a good thing. And, it's unfortunate,
people
but
are desperate, right? And so as a board, I think it is important for us to have a conversation of what do we want to do?
that's unfortunately, Ms. Chair, as you just noticed today, sorry, Ms. Bond, give me a second.
No,
There's
sorry.
not much we can do, unfortunately. And again, I've been on the board for many years and we've done
I
seen
know.
it all. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's been, shelters popped in to us from overnight. You know what I mean? So it's not something new, you know what I mean? And again, I get it, but I mean, we start sticking foreigners in a public school where there's kids in the gym. That's a problem. And I don't care what nobody says how that is not a problem. When you have other people in the same school where your child is at, you don't know the malice these people have. You just don't know that because they're not being screened. They're not being screened. We don't know what they're coming with. We just don't know. All we're doing is trying to help and do the right thing because nobody else wants to do it. But why us? At some point we got to say no. But now it's too late because now we don't have nowhere to stick them. Now we're sending them upstate, and they complaining about it, and they're sending them back over here. So again, somebody's gonna get hurt, and then the lawsuits are gonna start coming, and we never ever gonna be back to where we were prior to COVID. You know what I'm saying? The economy is gonna it sucks. You know what I'm saying? We're just putting ourselves more in debt because we're trying to do the right thing, but it's really not working out for us. It's just really not.
No, it's not. But my question is, as a board, right? Do we want to write letters collectively to the elected officials? Like, however I move has to be on behalf of the board and everybody in agreement as to what we want to do to address this. So that's kind of what I'm looking for, your guidance and your input. I know it's discouraging because it's happening, Alfredo. I hear everything you're saying, right? You've seen this happening over and over and over again. But do we just sit down and not do anything, or do we reach out to the rest of our elected officials? Do we try and get to the mayor's office with this? What do we want to do as a board?
I think we should request more funding for the major areas again, like Luke said, housing, education, or medical. You can imagine all Montefiore and these places are going to be so taxed, and then it's going to trickle down on people like us. If we get sick or something like that, it's going to be us versus them situation.
Okay, so you're saying requesting more capital to be poured into this district.
In terms of housing, education, transportation, the police safety, again, safety is another major issue. No one takes the train like early in the morning. Like I'm on a train at exactly like 6 in the morning.
Me too, sir. Me too. 6 a.m.
And
Absolutely, I'm on there too.
Mike, isn't it crazy?
It's awful.
It's And then now we got little babies coming in front of you trying to sell candy to you and all kind of stuff. I'm like, where all this coming from? It's like they're bringing them over here to be pimped out by some dude to sell candy. The same candy that your kids was selling in school.
Right.
Those little, yeah, they, I'm not trying to be bad or say something
You're
bad,
not
but
saying,
that's
John, you're
exactly
not saying nothing wrong, my
You're
brother.
not.
So don't ever think you're saying anything wrong. All right, you're not. All right, you're just keeping it real. And some people don't like the realness, but you know what? If it's either we're gonna keep it 100 or we're not, and then we're gonna be just as bad as them. So let's keep it 100. And you know what? Speak your mind, bro. That's it.
I mean, I get off at a stop called Court Street. You should. I got a videotape how this place looks at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, trying to get up where the 7 train changed to the 5 train. It's like a mob scene, But it's ridiculous.
Can I ask a quick question? Are we in executive session?
Hold on 1 second, because Denise Bond had we still are. We're still recording.
So we're not in executive session.
We're still, what do you mean executive session? We're still during our executive committee meeting.
There's only board members at this time.
I didn't even think of that.
Moses
Yes.
D's still here.
Moses and there's a 718 number. Carl, is that you?
That's caller's number.
It's Carla.
So what I wanted to say, I just think that I don't understand why the city is not approaching this like they approach a homeless issue and the wraparound services. So when you're talking about the funding, I agree with John. I agree with Alfredo. But the wraparound services has to be there. The idea that they're dropping people in the hotels and leaving them to the will of, the other organizations, rather than taking the bull by the horns in the city, actually using the resources, because that's the other thing. I see it for myself within the school system. The resources, all of a sudden, I don't know, nobody had any money. They cut teachers, they cut a lot of different things. They didn't have money. But then when this crisis hit now, there's clothing for students. There's a lot of different resources that are now being given.
Yeah.
The same people that were homeless and struggling, they didn't have those resources available to them. So the money is there somewhere in the system, I feel, because I'm seeing it, but it's just not being distributed properly. And I think I understand what you're saying, Beatrice, about writing a letter, but I don't know how you really phrase that exactly. How do you get?
We want to know what those wraparound services are. We want to know what is being put in place in this particular district.
Right, but I think the answer to that is nothing.
Exactly.
I think
Exactly,
the answer,
man. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, and it's nothing. You're right, Ms. Bond. You're 100% right.
It's absolutely nothing at this time, and I don't know. It's forcing people to do their job. That's what I feel like. If people were doing what they were supposed to be doing, then we wouldn't be. The situation is bad, but it wouldn't be as bad. Because no way you should be just housing people in a hotel and not having all those wraparound services come to them. They shouldn't be walking on the street begging people for food, for money. No, that should not be.
I think we're all in agreement, but what we have to determine today is how are we going to address and ask. We can't just sit around and just because we know nothing's happening, just sit around and just leave it at that, right? Like I do get we're discouraged, but I feel like we do need to put it on record that we're asking these things.
I mean, we could write a letter but it'll be wrong if it goes unanswered, after you put your, all your time in it. You know what I'm saying? And look, look what time it is, 8:30, right? So we're still here talking extra, and it's all good, but it is because we just not going nowhere. Particular questions were asked and particular comments were made, again, I'm not trying to get into details, you know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. And you know what it is? Like I told my clients, right? I'm gonna put up an example, right? Like I told my clients, I just went to go inspect, one of my clients' properties. You know what I'm saying? And after this phone call, I'm gonna grill them because I'm like, dude, how can you have people living in those conditions? You know what I'm saying? Because again, regardless of what, first and foremost, I'm a courteous person, and I'm a site safety registrant, right? So safety is a big thing for me. So whenever I see something that's not kosher, it bothers me because I'm like, damn, God forbid I leave and I knew about this and something happens and I got to deal with this shit for the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying? So again, you cannot stick people in certain locations without those people knowing where they at, how they're gonna get out in case of emergency. I mean, up to last year, I just noticed the difference between a smoke detector and a carbon monoxide detector. I didn't know there was a difference. You know what I'm saying? So again, I mean, and that's scary because again, you know, especially if you're a family and you hear something, you're gonna run. A lot of people are gonna leave their kids behind because they're gonna run, or they're not gonna be able to run, and they're all gonna get caught up in a small, tiny room. God knows how many beds are in there. You know what I'm saying? How are they bathing? How are they eating? I mean, what are they doing? I mean, how they remember hotel rooms, motel rooms don't have no cooking. They probably have a microwave, maybe, but they don't have nothing in regards to cooking. So what are they gonna put hot plates in there? Now, once you start putting a hot plate, now you're encouraging people to cook within their room, which is not legally permitted. You know what I'm saying? So now you have people cooking stuff, and you know, again, it's just everything that could possibly happen. I mean, I got a good suggestion. Why can't we stick them in Gracie Mansion, and then put a big tent in the lawn in Gracie Mansion? Gracie Mansion would fit at least like at least 200 people.
Right.
Thank you. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
Riverdale has the old Passionist Retreat House next to the Hebrew Home. That place is empty. You know, that place has over 400 rooms. I
We
have
want to
not
put
one
this in
at one
writing and suggest.
at one time. I have not heard nobody say we're going to use the Hebrew Home. I mean the Passionist Center to house people. But unfortunately, that's Riverdale. It's not
It's
going to
not gonna
happen like
happen.
that.
That's not gonna happen.
Well, that
It's
if
not going to
you
happen.
put it in a letter, it will bring attention to the problem. As far as those hot plates, that was the complaint from downtown when the hotels downtown where they were using hot plates down there.
Because there was fires. People didn't, a hot plate. A hot plate is an electric stove, right? So again, we see us here in New York City. We're used to cooking in gas, right? So when we go to a different state that uses electric, we always burn the rice. I mean, I'm just talking for myself because we don't know how to use electrical stoves. So imagine putting a hot plate in each room. I mean, do they have the capacity electrical wise? Do they have the proper loads to accommodate 500 hot plates in a hotel
Why don't we
that was
go do
built?
a walkthrough? I propose we do a walkthrough. We asked to visit these sites. I propose that we write a letter with all of our concerns, all the elected officials, commissioners, the mayor. That's my suggestion, but I can't
And
do that without everybody agreeing to that.
I'm down. I'm down. It has to be either on a
that's,
Monday or Saturday or after 5. And again, we gotta understand if we see stuff, we're gonna point it out. And
We have to.
some people probably not gonna like that. You
But
see what I'm
but
saying?
at least we're doing our due diligence, right? Of making these
Listen, what
observations, of
I'm good with you.
advocating.
You could count me in.
Is everybody in agreement? Would it work a Saturday for everybody? And then based on our observations, then we propose
Or
what we
Monday.
want
Or
in a
Monday
letter?
also.
Yeah.
I'm good with that. I think that what we have to do also is the observations after we've done the walkthrough. Then that has to we have to give that to a media outlet as well, because I think that the News 12, we should have News 12 involved in that also.
I have contacts to medias. We can absolutely do
Yeah.
that. We can
So that
absolutely do that.
so that and
So,
when we have after we do the walkthroughs, we put our observations into a letter, and that information needs to go to News 12. Or if they want to come along as we are doing the walkthroughs,
or
one of
maybe
the
something at our office, at the community board office. So then the proposal is that I'm going to request for a site visit. It seems like a Saturday could work for the majority of us.
Okay.
Based on observations, we're going to get media and we're going to get letters out to all of the elected officials, including the mayor.
But just remember, guys, we're gonna expose ourselves. So just be willing to take the blunt that's gonna come down. All right, just putting that out there.
But
I'm a volunteer.
They're gonna make things nice if we supposed to just pop up there. It's like, remember in the summer, or they were talking about those guys on Webster Avenue, and all the politicians decided to go out there. Why the day when all the politicians go out there, none of the guys are out there washing cars on
Because
Webster?
they were informed.
They were
Come on,
alerted.
John. They were alerted. Come on.
I forgot to tell you guys, but Dyer Avenue has been a shithole for the last couple weeks.
You think so? You think so?
And I keep warning you guys. I saw a lady was twerking in front of the bus. And another one like pass out by the diner and stuff like that. It's been like crazy, and you know we haven't been getting
We could
reports.
do a walkthrough of not just the sanctuary homes, but of our neighborhood.
Yeah, but Dyer Avenue, we cannot, just excuse me for interrupting, guys.
Yes.
Dyer
We're
Avenue,
talking about the shelter stuff down there.
we cannot confront those people on Dyer. I tried it with my wife, and some dude came at us with something. So
Okay.
I would not say that I would not suggest any of my board members even try to go and speak to any of those dudes there.
No, but I'm talking about where the shelters, where the stuff says a shelter has been open and stuff down there. It's been crazy.
Yeah,
So
but
you're
I
saying
mean,
you want to get some like a light shined on that neighborhood and what's happening there.
I'm Spanish, papi.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's nuts.
Okay, I don't want to keep it too much longer.
They keep.
I'm so sorry, but I do have to sign off. I do have to
Okay,
sign off.
bye, Ms.
All right.
Bond.
Have a good night,
Take care.
everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
but
we're all
can you see if we can have community affairs actually with us when we're taking this walk? A
okay.
community affair officer, so we can
I'll
have some
connect with
type of.
Ursula. I'll connect with Ursula tomorrow and I'll keep you all informed. But everybody, a Saturday, you'd be able to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we need a community affairs officer, John. I mean, to visit the hotels, nah. But I mean, if we're gonna be going to Dyer, I don't suggest that, bro. Those dudes are very disrespectful, and I do not suggest any of my members confront those people. I mean, Dyer Avenue has been an issue. Even when Spec was Chief Stevenson was around, it's not gonna go nowhere. Those Dyer cabs, they very disrespectful. They listen. Me and my wife got into it with some dudes the other day. Like it was really bad, like really bad. So again, and it was all because we just told him, sir, can you move so we could get out? And he just went and he just went in on us. You know what I mean? So the hotel stuff, 1,000,000,000% we could do. That shouldn't be a problem. But you know, in regards to walking around like Dyer and all those other places, that's not for us. Unfortunately, we don't have that type of protection and so forth. I won't recommend that.
All right. John, did you want to say anything else before we sign off?
That's it. That's it.
Okay, so I'm gonna move ahead with everybody's approval and agreements. I'll connect with Ursula tomorrow and I will circle back with everybody.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Clinton, anything before we log off? Clinton?
No.
Okay, so our
Okay,
meeting, we're ending
the
our
nomination committee, are they gonna send out that email about the nomination
Alfredo, you're on the
committee?
nominating committee, right?
Nomination.
Yeah,
I'm on the nomination committee.
I think Ursula sent it out. The thing is, I've been on the road most of the day, but I think I saw something regarding a nominating committee meeting next on the 24th.
Right.
Yeah, so I think Ursula sent it out already. I think.
Alfredo, can you follow up with them?
Okay.
With your committee. Okay.
She
All right.
she just sent it out right now.
Okay, perfect.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
So
All
our meeting is ending, our executive committee meeting, 8:39 p.m. Thank you all, and we have some follow-ups to do. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, guys, take care.
Thank you.
All right.